Good morning, and you were listening to Soul Talk. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties there with the microphone this morning. That was Stephen Garrett that we were just playing in his last album, War and Siscante is the name of the song, and we'll be debuting his next album here sometime in January. Got a really good show for you. Just wanted to kind of intro the show here, and then we'll be talking a little bit here in just a few minutes. Hope you guys had a wonderful week, and we have David Beck coming on the line today to talk about the work that he does and his upcoming, or his book that is out, and so we'll be talking here just shortly. So I'll be right back. And this next song is by Julie Rust, and it's called Trust. Okay, and again, that was Julie Rust with her song called Trust. Julie's become a pretty good friend of mine since she was on the show in May, and so playing and featuring her music in her SoundClouds or her Audible Insights on V109 FM as well. In case most of you weren't aware, V109 has switched its format from classic rock to now only featuring independent artists. And along with that, we really appreciate SoundClouds on inspiration or affirmations or other show hosts and that kind of stuff. So it's been very rewarding. We're now featuring over 23 musicians, and we got more coming. And it's really exciting to be able to connect with musicians all across the country and to hear a different format and something that's very exciting that hasn't been done before. So, anyways, I really enjoyed playing music, and I was a musician many years ago when I was younger, and so it's rewarding to be able to to be able to do that and be able to do that. So, with that being said, I was just thinking about some of the things going on this week. Most of you know that I've been sick for almost 2 weeks, and emotionally I've been going through a lot of that. And if you know anything about me, to me, everything that I attract to myself or create within myself is caused by my emotions. Now, I've eliminated the thoughts of right and wrong that go on with me, because then that can cause for more restriction within yourself. So what I've looked at is I'm either in balance or out of balance. And I don't look at being out of balance as a bad thing. Sometimes our greatest lessons are coming from being out of balance, and that's where some of our greatest growth comes from. So the day before Thanksgiving, I started to get sick, and so I spent the 7 days that I was supposed to be going off and going up to Illinois, Nashville, and Kentucky. I spent those days here at home in Florida in bed in meditation, and so I spent a lot of time within myself. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit because this is something that most of us wouldn't think to do, or we would just sleep and take vitamins and instead of and be upset that they were sick. So instead of doing that, why not embrace it and look deep within it? I mentioned this the other day to a colleague of mine, and I said, what if sickness was an opportunity? And that's an opportunity to get still, to get quiet inside and really hear and really listen. And we're always connected, and we're always have the ability to listen. But now you've been given the opportunity to really get down inside of yourself. And what was interesting is that I had been seeing somebody, and it was about the weekend before Thanksgiving. I kind of realized that this is probably not going to be anything more than a friendship. And as a result of that, I knew I needed to say something, and I didn't. And for whatever reason, I was like, well, we'll just wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens, and we'll go from there. And what ended up happening is I started feeling, every time I'd think about it, I'd feel my throat clench up. And I had to really start processing this, and it was interesting because then I got congested, and then I got sick. And so what I know is that sickness is caused by the constriction of the energy within your body, or the flow of energy within your body. And as a result of that, that part of you can get congested. And so here we are looking at congestion inside of myself. And what was really funny is that last night I called the person I was seeing, and I explained that to them, and they were thinking the very same thing, that we should just be friends. But they didn't want to say anything. So for almost, 2.5 weeks, neither one of us was saying anything. And it was really funny because the lady that actually booked David on the show today, her and I were talking a couple days ago, and I know she's listening. Hi, Phyllis. And she had mentioned to me, I think that you're intuitively, she was picking up that I was evolving and that I was grieving, and it was coming from grieving. And because of that, I was changing and letting go of things. And she's right on so many levels. But this was just kind of funny, and it was confirmation of what I was already going through, and then I had to act upon that and actually say something or do something about it. So I did. Well, I wanted to share that with you because oftentimes we would continue going forward and not do anything about it. And then we wouldn't be speaking our truth, and we would still be stuck, and we'd have all these toxic thoughts going on inside of us, and we'd be denying ourselves what we really need to do is just to get back in flow. And see, to get out of balance like I did for the past few weeks was an opportunity for me to look at something that could have been a pattern I'd been doing for years, and it had been a pattern I've been doing for years. And so the past few years I've been practicing speaking the truth. And each time I find myself not doing it, it's an opportunity for me to look at it and get stronger in speaking the truth, because I can look at it and say, oh, well, I've been doing that for a while. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to hurt somebody or whatever. And as a result of that, I've been hurting myself. So I had to be able to let go of that, and I had to experience that in order to be able to let go of it. So oftentimes these things like sickness that comes up, it's a sickness because it's a pattern that we haven't looked at in a very, very long time. And so why not look at it as that now it's become an opportunity to wake up even more, because the world is waking up. It is experiencing heightened levels of consciousness. The evolution is happening, or the evolution is happening. And it's time for us to really take a look at that. It's time for us to really get into ourselves and really understand ourselves at a different level. And you can do that sitting right there on your couch or in your desk or wherever you're sitting right now listening to this station. You can get right down in whatever it is you're experiencing right now and really, really look at it. So if you feel a tension in your body, look at it. I can almost guarantee you it's attached to some kind of emotion or thought, something that you haven't let go of. And if you do that, you're going to let go of that, and you're going to put your body and your soul more back, and you're going to put it back even further into oneness. Because that's what this is all about. We're merging our soul, our body back with our soul. And that's what we want to do. And we want to allow it to grow and manifest and get bigger, and its consciousness get bigger, and us just to grow as spiritual beings. And so, I just wanted to bring this up this morning because this is something that all of us can benefit from. This is something all of us can do. And, some of us are practicing it part of the time. A lot of us are reading about it in books, but we're not necessarily practicing it. And I know that because I did that for a very long time. And so because I didn't practice it for a very long time, and I was even teaching it, I wasn't seeing any changes in my life. And I wasn't hurting anybody else other than myself. And it's because we get afraid. We look at all this stuff and we say, oh, that's possible. And, I love it, and we can practice this, and, that's so right. But we don't get down into it and look at it. And right now is a world built on making you look outside. And most of you are looking for a lot of things. But the reality is what you're looking for is yourself. and that relationship to your soul. And when you get deep into your soul, you're connecting back to consciousness, which is a connection to everything else. And so this is how we evolve, by going deep within ourselves, understanding ourselves better, and everything else out here will start to get better. Well, it will start manifesting in unimaginable glory that you couldn't possibly ever imagine. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back for one more segment, and then we'll be bringing David on the line. Thank you for listening, and we'll be right back. Okay, and that was Leah Clark and her song Embrace the Change, and you can go check out her stuff at leahclarkmusic.com. And that was also one of Julie Rust's Audible Insights. You can check her out at julierust.net or julierust.com as well. So, back on our getting deep within ourselves, one of the reasons I thought this might be kind of a cool topic to bring up is I was reading over David's website this morning, and he talks about evolution as a journey of change. The next level is aligning head, heart, humanity, and spirituality, and seems to be in alignment with a lot of the things that David talks about. And so, he's definitely looks like what I would call an evolution specialist. He helps people evolve within as a life coach. And so, with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about him before we bring him on the show in the next segment. And just to read off his bio here, David Beck is an intuitive, certified life coach, choreographer, dance instructor, producer, published author, public motivational speaker, and radio show host. He is a graduate of the Chicago Academy of Arts and the Fearless Living Institute. He is also an ordained minister through the Universal Life Church and continues to further his own personal growth and transformation through various readings, workshops, and seminars. David has been featured guest and co-host on various national and international radio shows from Blogtalk, CBS Psychic Radio, and has been deemed as the resident life coach on OutQ in the Morning with Larry Flick, now called the Morning Jolt with Larry Flick on Sirius XM Radio. David is the founder of Evolution The Next Level, which began as a vessel for him to produce through dance, music, poetry, and art. David choreographs and directs nationally for many well-known and respected dance and production companies. He as well continues to teach and choreograph adjudicate for many regional and national conventions and competitions. David grew up as a victim of child abuse and was told his dreams were just that, dreams. Dreams that would never come true because he was worthless and would never amount to anything. Well, here he is, living and creating his dreams and purpose of service. Since graduating and receiving his coaching certification, ETNL has evolved into a coaching practice, a service of supporting others to evolving in their next level of success by mastering fear, living the gift, accepting and being the yeses of absolute and prosperous freedom, living the gift that you are meant to do. And then he goes into this and says, living in the next level, energy, vision, openness, love, unity, time, inspiration, opportunity, and newness. Anyways, that is definitely, I think we're going to connect well. David sounds like an amazing guy. And hopefully we'll all learn something this morning from David, and I'm sure we will. And we want to take a look at that a little bit. This is a man that's, and he talks about it in his bio. He had a rough start in life, and he didn't let that bring him down. Maybe at times he did, but ultimately what happened is he rose above that. And a lot of people get weirded out about that word, rise above. And I mentioned that one day, and somebody got a little bit offended that I said we have to rise above that, and they thought it made it sound like that we were saying that we're better than people. And rise above means we're going to rise above our problems, or rise above our pains, and get past our fears, and we're going to allow ourselves to be happy, joyful, joyous. We're going to allow ourselves to be love within. And so we all are affected in life by things that hurt us. And it's what we do with that hurt. Are we going to let it fester inside of us, or are we going to take a look at it and let it go so we can grow from it? And that's the thing that most of us do, is we hold on to that. Or we say, I don't need to deal with this. I need to look past this. I need to get over it. Somebody the other day said to me, I just need to get over this stuff. I said, no, you don't need to get over it. You need to take a look at it. You need to love yourself, and you need to allow yourself to experience this hurt, but then let it go at the time that you've now healed from it. And so a lot of us, and this was concerning somebody that had hurt them in a breakup that they had had, and they said, I just need to get over it. And I said, in reality, you just broke up with them a couple months ago. And to say that you had almost a year-long relationship with them and that you're going to be over it in a couple months is to deny the fact that you're hurting. And so you have to get inside of that hurt and really look at it and really understand it. And we want to get rid of it because we want to get rid of the pain. We don't want to experience the pain. But that pain is telling us something. And we have to get in that pain and look at it and talk to it, find out why it's there. And some of us say, well, it's obvious, I got hurt. Well, no, the thing is that we got hurt because we allowed ourselves to feel that hurt. So in order to become aware of it, we have to get inside of it and look at it and understand it. We want to blame the other person for hurting us, but in reality, if we understood ourselves on a very deep level, we would know that there's a natural flow of things and that sometimes people come and go out of our lives, and some people change, that the relationships change dynamics. And, if we get hurt by that, it's because we're unwilling to let the flow happen. And so we want to take a look at that and look at that pain to realize what it truly is. And that's allowing ourselves to get hurt. And it's even deeper than that, but that deepness that you have to look at is up to you to look at and find out. And usually it comes down to the fact that we were looking for that person to love us, or whether it be a friend or intimate lover or family member, or we were looking for acceptance, or we had expectations of it. And if the thing is that the love comes from within us. And when we can find that love within us and become stable and strong within it, within that love, then things that happen to us, we stay in the flow. Love becomes flow then. And it allows us to move and go to the side and whatever. And I call the flow of the universe surfing. And love gives you that sturdy, strong foundation, as Jesus taught us, to be able to guide and navigate through that surfing. And so it's just something to think about. And there's a whole lot of things going on in this world. And there's a whole lot of things that most of us want to take a look at and think that that's bad, and that's keeping us from doing what we want to do in life. Nothing is keeping you from doing anything that you want to do in life except for you. And our guest coming on the show today is evidence of that, because he's never let anything stop him, obviously, based on what we're reading this morning, and we're going to hear more about that from him here in a few minutes. So it's just something for all of us to really ponder on and understand in ourselves. One other announcement I wanted to make: our guest from last week, Lisette Larkin, she mailed me over the week 3 of her books, Dealing with Difficult People, A Gateway to Enlightenment. Anybody that is interested in getting a copy of that, you can either email me on Facebook, if you're friends with me on Facebook, or you can email me at my email at jmcdonald1974@gmail.com. Whoever is the first 3 people to email me, I will send them a copy of it, a copy of that book that she sent. And make sure you include your name and address so I can actually mail it to you. So that'll be a free book that you can get as a gift from our guest last week. So again, my email address is jmcdonald1974@gmail.com, or you can email me on Facebook as well. So I look forward to hearing from you about that. So we're coming up to the end of this segment, and when I come back, we'll have David on the line. So the next song is going to be Leah Clark, I Am. And the next one after that is Stephen Garrett and his song Decoy. We'll be right back. Okay, so I don't know what happened there, but the microphone wasn't working again. And so we're having a little bit of trouble while I'm broadcasting from home this morning. So anyhow, guys, I have David on the line, and I'm very excited. He's he's coming in from Chicago. And so we're going to bring him on the line right now. And so good morning, David. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. One question I have to ask you is, how is the weather in Chicago?
I knew you were going to ask that. I was all ready to I woke up this morning and it was 13 degrees, and now it's 21 degrees.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm originally from Minnesota, so I totally understand that kind of weather.
So yes, it's. However, this week, I mean, it's a testament of how everything is changing, because later on this week, the weather is calling for 48 degrees.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm like, yay, okay.
Well, that's what it was last night here in Florida. It was about 40 degrees, but it's too cold for me now because I've been living here too long. So.
Yeah, winter is not really for me. I can appreciate winter, and everyone's like, well, then how come you live in Chicago? Well, Spirit hasn't moved me yet to fully make the transition.
Yeah, they moved me out of Philadelphia a few years ago back down to Florida. I was really happy. So we were just talking a little bit about on the break, and I was asking you about your book that's out, and you're working on your second book.
Yes.
Can you tell tell the listeners about your first book and what that's about?
My first book is Conversations on Success, and it really was actually, I'll say, a push of spirit. It was the publishing company came to me and really liked what I had to offer, and it's self-published. But they came to me and said, we think you'd have a lot to contribute. And it's Conversations on Success, and there are 11 contributing authors, and each author shares different success strategies, their stories, that type of thing. And my chapter talks a little bit about evolution, which are the gifts that you mentioned about my website. They're the gifts that we all have, the energies that we all can tap into. And with that book, I wanted to shine light onto it and offer it. And with that book, it was fascinating because it came right at a time that my puppy had transitioned, and so I looked at it as an honor. And then afterwards, when I received my book, I had learned that my mother had transitioned, and so I definitely felt that they were around me, guiding me with it, and I love it. I love it. One of the contributing authors is Dr. John Gray. So it's an honor to be in a book with all of these other authors and be a contributor, and I love it. And it's actually you can get it on my website, and it's on sale. And also, if I can, if any, I'm running a special right now at holiday giving, and it's 50% off any reading. It says session, life coaching session. And for any of your listeners, if they email me and schedule a session and mention your radio show, I will give them a free autographed copy of the book.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
That is awesome. You guys remember that. Just email. And you can go to David's website at evolutionthenextlevel.com. And so you can email him on there and check out his website as well and get to know a little bit more about him. He's got a ton of stuff on here with videos and other information. So just definitely go check out evolutionthenextlevel.com. Well, That's very exciting. So you were the publishing company basically approached you and said, "We like what you got to offer. Can you write a chapter in this book?" And that's that if that's not the universe bringing you something, I don't know what it is.
Well, and it was actually right after I graduated, I received my coaching certificate, and when I received my certificate for it was really it was mastering fear and becoming aware of how emotional fear comes up and stops us, it tries to stop us, and yeah, those fears came up. So, oh my gosh, I don't know how to write, and all the excuses were trying to come in. And once I was aware, and about it, I knew I had to. I knew I had to move through it. I knew it was going to be the first step, on the journey of writing and being an author and creatively expressing myself through writing, because in the past I always creatively expressed myself through dance. Dance was actually, I'll say, well, it wasn't easy. However, it was an easy way for me to have a voice and to share my story without speaking, because as a child I wasn't allowed to basically speak. I had to keep certain things silent. And to a degree, they still are silent, which that's what the second book is about. Part of it is about releasing those secrets and healing them and transforming them. And I loved how you said earlier about rising above it. It reminds me of, the phoenix rising out of the ashes into something glorious and beauty. So I love that. And one of my pieces that I had choreographed was called, it was actually inspired by a rune, because I read runes, and the rune was Perth, and it's about a phoenix. So I loved how you said that this morning. I'm like, it's all right, universe is talking.
The synchronicity came in.
Yep.
I love I think that's one of my favorite moments is when validation or synchronicity. Wow. And it was just, it's usually about a side thought that you had too. It was something that you were working on, and you never looked for confirmation, validation. But generally, what we're not looking for is exactly what we get.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you're not looking for love and it comes. But so, this of course the show is about the soul. So you've had quite an incredible journey, and throughout life. I mean,
still do.
You still do, of course. But what I really thought was incredible is that, here's a man who's an artist, he's a dancer, he's a choreographer, a producer. You've done a lot of stuff. Even from the childhood you had, you've accomplished so much. And so I'm going to ask you to hold that thought, because we're going to go on a break, but I really want to kind of talk about that, because a lot of people would let the childhood you had really bring you down and stay in that down state most of their life. So we'll be right back, guys. We got a song here from Manic Expression and Sandy Rapp, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we're back, and we were just having a good conversation on the break as well, but I was just really interested in hearing about, and I was telling David about, the respect I have for him, because, he's a dancer and a choreographer and a producer and obviously an intuitive life coach, and, he's had a lot that's happened to him in his life, and he's had a very exciting life as well. So I just wanted to kind of have him talk about his journey, through that, because this is something all of us need to hear, is that there's people out there actually doing this. They're overcoming their fears. They're actually living their life. And even though they've had bad things happen to them, they're finding happiness. And David's an example of that. I just wanted maybe if he could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a loaded. There's so much involved in it, which is what the new book's about. But I'll give you a little bit of it. Excuse me. It's very dry in the house here. Like I said, face her fears, and she had her emotional fears, and was an alcoholic, and verbally and emotionally and physically abusive. But it also went beyond my mother, and now I can really understand how my mother was in fear, because as a child, my mother was actually, in being in her fear, had also found love in all the, let's say, disempowering places. A story that comes to my mind, and one that I talk about in the book, is after I had chosen to leave my mother, which hardest thing for a child to look at his mother, and I'll give this, as your mother, as the person you love is physically punching you, and blood is coming out, and for a young child to ask, "Are you trying to kill me?" And for the parent to say, for this child to hear, "Yes, I wish you would have never been born," which is something that I always heard throughout my childhood. In those moments, I had to embrace my truth and honor that feeling of shaking inside, that when truth wants to come out, and I can't live with you anymore. I don't want to live here anymore. And talk about spirit and divine intervention, because my father ended up showing up at the door in those moments, and could hear her screaming at me. And later on in life, I had learned it was actually him showing up at the door, which was very unusual. Normally, my grandmother would come and pick me up from school during these years, and take me to school. Later, I had learned my grandmother actually, because intuition, it all runs in both sides of my family, the metaphysical aspect, the gifts, and she had a sense, and she actually sent my father there, and she was actually down the block watching. But to be that child and have that, and then your dad comes and goes to take you to school, and there's this argument happening, and during those moments, my mother literally kicked me out the door. Kicked. Didn't understand. I mean, I did, because that's how it was living with her. I still do have a brother, but at the time I had a newborn baby brother. He was just maybe about a year and a half, not even a year and a half. And my mother used to leave me alone with him at night to take care of him, or I would stay home from school to take care of this newborn. I mean, I was an adult basically as a child, and my mother would always cry on my shoulder, that type of thing. So, I can understand and relate to these children out there who are being bullied. I was bullied in school, and the saying, it does get better. It can get better. You just got to stand up and speak your truth and stand for yourself. So, with my mom, I would go and visit her, and remained. I still yearned for that mom. Still yearned to be loved. And would go and visit her, and on Sundays, as a matter of fact, it became Sundays. Before, when I lived with her, I would go and visit my grandmother on Sundays. When I moved in with my grandmother, Mom got Sundays. But then that eventually had to stop, because the Sundays weren't so nice, because I was sitting in the bar with her and the person she was dating. And the last time that I had stayed was I got to watch this man banging my mother's head up against the wall.
Oh, wow.
And in the back room, my baby brother was there. And think about a matter of moments, everybody, about how all the thoughts running through your head as an adult. Well, as a child, I had, I'm screaming, "Stop hurting my mommy." And then I'm going, what do I do? What do I do? My brother's in the back room, all in a matter of a second. And at 9 years old, the only thing that came to me, I saw a baseball bat, and I grabbed a baseball bat and hit the man over the back with it. And he turned, and I don't know where it came from. I don't even remember seeing it. He had a machete and whipped it at me, and I ran screaming out the door. And I say this, the judgment I had, and actually my mother, I ran screaming like a little girl.
Wow.
So, Mom said that to me too, so what does that say? But, I remember growing up, the police came, and they went to the door, and I was at the neighbor's, and I didn't know what was I didn't know what happened to my mom. I was scared. I didn't know what happened to my brother. In those moments, to hear the police come back and say everything's fine, it like clicked. It was the voice that said, "Your mother just picked fear and hate and fear over you."
Wow.
So growing up, there was a lot of reprogramming that I didn't even start reprogramming all this pain until my 30s. Dance was my outlet. Dance, the creative aspect, and my cards and my runes, they were a way of getting me to just go within, because I've always known that there was something greater outside than myself. We're all connected to this. We're all gods and goddesses. I would sit there on the floor playing with my Star Wars and be like, I wonder if someone is I'd look up and I'd be like, I wonder who's doing this to me. Mm-hmm. Which, as a child, and there was that aspect of someone's controlling me, which is not the case. No one's controlling us unless we give our power away. As a child, I was being controlled. So the greatest lesson. And then being taken away, and the court, it wasn't settled. What is that called now? The word slipped my mind, where the father got custody. I had to actually go into the court, and say who I wanted to live with. And my mother had this way about her, because it had happened a couple of different times to where people, my family members, both on my maternal side, had tried to get me and my brother away. However, my mother had this look, and I lied as a child. She got me to lie because I was so afraid, so afraid. But here I am, and then when I moved in with my grandmother and things, all of that childhood stuff didn't know how to heal. Didn't know. My grandmother worked nights. There was only so much she could do. My father, he wasn't really necessarily there. He had his own life. He's in his own world. We always say. He didn't know how to take care of a kid. He wasn't ever really present, growing up or anything like that. But during those years, I was sexually abused by somebody in my family that I ended up having to keep a secret, and I had been raped at gunpoint. So all of these things that just a few years ago, I was like, how did I attract all that? Learning the law of attraction. Right. It's like, how did I choose that life? How did I choose that to come to me? Right. And really, it because here I am. I learned that when I share my story, and this was actually the affirmation last night because I went to a meeting just for myself, my healing. But they asked me if I would lead it, and that brought up some nerves, that type of thing, and I did, and people went around and shared, and again, affirmation that just speaking up and sharing yourself and shining your light really supports and helps another. And I've known ever since a child that my calling is so much more than I even am aware of. So. Wow. Yeah, that was long-winded. Sorry about about that, Jeremy.
No, that's totally fine. I honestly, that was, people need to hear this and to see that, you're healing every day and that it's possible. There's so many people out there that are hurting that, they don't even think it's possible to ever heal. They're on a lot of medications and they think that's their only way, but the medications are only a band-aid on top of the problem. And we're not treating, it's not very holistic. It's not bringing them back into their wholeness. And I think that your story is, very, very valid. So.
Well, it's fascinating because the piece I'm choreographing now came as a vision, and all the synchronistic signs leading up to it. I know it's meant to be. It didn't go exactly as I expected last night in mine. I was all in my fear, judging myself with it. But it's this piece is about death and life, and really that there is no death. One of the greatest things now, my mother is not greatest that she's transitioned. My mother did pass away, and I didn't learn of her passing till 3 months after. And actually, her last words to me were very painful, and we didn't speak for a couple of years. And then I had learned she passed away. But now she just comes and visits me, and I feel her love. And as a matter of fact, I was driving the other day, and I just, out of my peripheral vision, and I'm like, really? Now while I'm driving, and I look, and there she is, and I felt her hand on me, and I'm like, okay, I'm driving, and the tears just came. But it was like, could you knock first, please?
Wait, I need a little bit of warning before you come in.
But if they knock, I mean, especially with she's like, you wouldn't answer the door. You'd say I'm driving. So, I do welcome it, because when we have those moments, and we all have them, but we tend to think we're crazy, or we tend to rationalize it. Yeah, no, no, we can connect with our loved ones that have passed on, that are, because they're right beside us. That's what this piece is about. That's what my book is about. Nothing ever dies. It just transforms. That's one of the first keys, one of the first gifts of evolution. We're all energy.
Yeah.
And it's experience.
Yeah.
So.
Well, with that, I'm going to take a break here real quick, and we'll be right back, guys. Thank you. Okay, guys, and we're back. And so I for one, really, not that I enjoyed the fact that David went through those things as a child, but I'm really glad that he was able to be strong in who he is, to be able to share that with us, that we talked about on the last segment. So, because I do feel that everybody needs to be able to hear, people need to hear that story, so they know that they can heal. So along the process, you mentioned your 30s, which is kind of interesting, because that in my 30s is when I really started to heal a lot of the things that I had going on inside of me, because we were talking about on a break that you're writing a book, and you were a little bit overwhelmed that you are writing a book because you didn't think you could, and I did the same thing. I was laughing because when I first started writing, I had a D, and I'm like, I had a D in high school in English. How am I going to write a book? And so people were like, well, you got to write a book. And what's interesting is that I ended up with a local publisher, and I get direct contact with my editor all the time. And I eat dinner with him and all that kind of stuff. So it's like the universe provides us with what we need, even though our fears are there. And it's funny, now that I'm in my 30s, my grammar is not nearly as bad as it was when I was 16. But how did you, what started you on that journey in your 30s to start healing?
Well, let me go back a little bit. Well, I want to affirm for you too, in the aspect of, I got C's and D's. Grammar school, my first day of high school, even though it was the Chicago Academy for the Arts, it was like the sister school of fame, which was actually a vision of mine as a little boy. I watching that TV show, I'm like, I want to go to a school like that. I wasn't even a dancer yet. I didn't even, I just visualized. And then boom, I ended up going to a school like that. But that opportunity, people are always like, would you go back and change anything? No. However, I believe I could have embraced it a little bit more, rather than just, I still was that adult. I didn't know how to change that. I was a teenage adult. I was doing adult things that really still have healing to do with that. I'm human. But in my 30s, knowing that I was always intuitive, knowing that visions would happen, knowing that, wow, when I set my mind to it, when I set my heart to it, I accomplish it. So then how come I feel so sad? How come I feel so lonely? How come I'm not really where I want to be? All these questions, all these thoughts. And what I didn't mention earlier is, after I had left my mother, my brother had been taken away, and put in foster care and then eventually adopted. And when I was 24, I wrote a letter to DCFS to find him. Just listen to that voice. Well, universe provided, because we actually both wrote letters to DCFS at the same time, looking for each other. And we met when he was 16. Yes, 16. I taught him how to drive, and then he ended up actually moving in with me when he was 17, and I had just purchased my home, so it was all beautiful divine timing. And he started dancing with me, and it was great. It was all, it's like, oh my God, we're so connected, and oh wow. But again, here I've got my brother. Here I'm dancing, I'm choreographing. Life couldn't get any better, but I was still not happy. I was still something. The healing, all of that. Here, my mother and brother haven't met. All of that. So there was a TV show on many years ago, and the first year it was filmed here in Chicago, and it was called Starting Over. And again, following that voice, one of the life coaches on that show, Rhonda Britton, the voice in my head said, "You're going to work with her one day." And immediately I felt some type of connection with her. When we see someone and you're like, I know you. That's our soul connection. That's our spirit contract that we created before we chose this life. And there was that image. And so, boom, I started taking classes for myself, teleclasses to dive in. And there is where I started to really embrace when I began sharing there was healing happening. I'll put it that way. There was healing. And people would say, you would be an amazing life coach. You would be amazing. Well, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me right now. After a year, I finally said, okay, let me see. I'll apply, and we'll see where it goes from there, because college was not in my cards. I didn't have the money, didn't care for school. Got C's and D's and F's. I don't even know how I graduated high school. and college, really? And boom, I applied, and it was amazing, and created had to do a master thesis, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and that's how I got started.
Nice.
With life coaching and really helping people uncover their fear. Because it really is either fear or love. And I believe we are all a gift in this world. We are all, every single one of us, I don't care who you are, we're a gift. It's about, are we willing to accept ourselves as a gift? If there's a person that is abusing, if there is a person, well, there is, people out there that are abusing, people that are out there hurting other people, physically, violently, it's because no one's embracing them as a gift. No one did embrace them as a gift. They're not seeing themselves as a gift. And my prayer, my wish is that when they're rehabilitated, anything of that nature, it's for them to find that they are a gift, because then everything will shift. Of course, there's I don't like this word, consequence. But, making amends, that type of thing. But all of us are a gift. And if we can accept that we're a gift and we have gifts to share in this world and be in the yeses of loving ourselves, that's all that matters.
I love the fact that you say the yeses. Because years ago, how many times do we say no to ourselves?
Exactly.
And I don't know, there was it was either a book or a video. I think it was Michael Beck what I heard say, the more you say yes, the more the universe will qualify you to fulfill your dreams. And it'll just keep on happening, and more things will come to you, and more lessons will come to you, and that's just
there is also to caution with that, the yeses, in the aspect of what I learned going through school. It was, how often do we say yes to ourselves? And
Sure.
so, yeah, it is about saying yes to ourselves, but we also need to be very clear on what we say yes to.
True.
I mean, as a child and a teenager, and the situations, I'll say the sexual situations I found myself in, I was saying yes because I wanted love.
Well, yeah.
And here, I'll say inappropriate yes, but again, what's inappropriate? But again, I was a adult child. So it really is about going, yes, this will serve my highest good. Yes, this feels authentic. Yes, this is coming from my heart. Yes, I love myself. So often we get caught up on how our shell looks, our weight, and this is coming through me, why it must be said. Our weight, that we look at ourselves and we beat ourselves up. Well, stop calling yourself names. Stop calling yourself a fat butt or things of that nature, and learn to love it, because that weight's there to offer you something. It's something that gets to be healed. It's, like you said earlier, an opportunity. So.
Yeah, and I think
why that came through, but I needed to say it for some reason.
No, I think it's very valid. And I was just thinking about what you're saying too. Is that, do you think that your yeses change when you find that love in yourself too? Because I made a lot of those yeses in those sexual situations too, and many times of saying yes and not feeling right about myself, I finally realized when I'd found that love inside of myself that the yeses I was giving was based on the fact that I loved myself, and I was saying yes to a situation that was in my highest and best now, as opposed to my need to be loved before. And so that I call it your desperation moments, or your disparity moments, where you're like, I just need this person. I need to be close to somebody, and so I'm saying yes. And that is to me is an unawake way of saying yes, and I've done that many times. So I think I was just I was thinking there's probably there's a big difference between that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to be right back, and we'll have more of David and our conversation of the soul in just a few minutes. Okay, and we're back, and we were just talking about our different experiences in life. The fact that David went to a performing arts school in Chicago, which was the second one in the country. And there's I was just mentioning there's magnet schools all across the country now. These cities are really embracing this. But we were also talking about we wish the arts were promoted more in school than they really are. There's just it's not necessarily the big thing that you promote in high schools nowadays. And I remember when I was in school, it was they had the arts, but football was the big thing that was promoted in school, not necessarily the arts. And there should be a lot. I agree with you. Well, that's a should, but it'd be nice to see more of the arts.
Yeah, it would be very beneficial. I mean, for me, normal high school. I remember I wanted to. I had first actually applied to a seminary school because when I was younger, I wanted to be a priest. I also wanted to go to the seminary school because I felt it would be safer for me. Because, like I said, I was bullied, and if I would have went to any of the high school in the surrounding area, I don't know where I'd be now. It would have been it would have been horrific for me. But I did not get accepted to that seminary school because of my achievement test or whatever. And here it was like a month before, and I had no idea what high school I was going to go to, and found out about the audition, and we went, and I had such a bad ear infection. It was actually the last ear infection I ever had. I used to get them when I was a child. My grandmother actually took me because my mother wasn't taking me to the doctor, and my grandmother said, "I'm just taking you." And when she took me to the doctor said if you would have waited one more day, he would have lost his hearing.
Wow.
And so here I am auditioning, and I, doing turns, and I'm falling out of the turns because my equilibrium's off, and I was so sick, so sick, throwing my body all around. And I remember driving home from the city, and I was in the back seat, and I crashed. I just fell asleep, and I slept for 3 days, and that was actually the last ear infection. And but I did not learn that I was accepted until I called saying, did I get in? Oh yeah, didn't you get your letter? And I was screaming. School starts in a week. Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the arts is so important. I mean, even if, because if there's not arts in a local high school or local grammar school, get in something after school. It is spirit. Anything artistic is spirit, is soul, is a form of expression. If, like I said earlier, dancing was my voice. It was a way for me to work through it. So if you are having a challenging time, know that there's support out there, but also know that you can have a voice, creatively express it.
Nice. Yeah, very true. So, now one of the things I was thinking is because you are an intuitive and you are an instructor. Obviously, evolution of consciousness is or evolution within is your specialty. Intuitively, what are you picking up now? What's going on in the world? I mean, there's a ton of things going on. The Occupy Tampa, or Occupy Tampa. That's just because I live here. The Occupy movement. There's a lot of crazy things going on, but I actually think there's a lot of beautiful things going on as well. I mean, I'm just watching the dynamics, and it's like a flow to me. It looked, if you were looking at it from your ego, it would look like the world's falling apart, but I'm looking at it from saying, wow, people are really starting to wake up. They don't necessarily know what that means, but, I just want to get your take.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's an awakening. I mean, the world is awakening right now. We're all awakening. We're all seeing, I know here in Chicago, and everyone is saying, corruption is coming into light. And we get the choice to shift. We get the choice to change. I'm looking at this too as a point of really getting out of our judgments. For me, 2012, what I'm seeing and beyond is really, it is about embracing each other. That's what I'll say my thing, but it's really everyone's. It really is about embracing the gift that we all are. When we embrace the gift that we are, it's becoming aware of how we judge ourselves, and the best way to do that, how do you judge another? Because we all do it. What do you think so bad about yourself? What names do you call yourself? What words come out of your mouth? Like I'll give an easy example. Have you ever said, "That was so stupid"?
Yeah.
I find myself occasionally saying it. David, you're so stupid. Why'd you say that? Okay, so, who else am I looking at as stupid? What voice is that? Whose voice is that? That's a voice of the past that conditioned me that they felt stupid. And they were putting their energy up onto me. And so now, becoming aware of that, I get that choice point. I get to choose if I want to view people as stupid And why do that? Because I don't want to view myself as stupid. If we view another as less than in whatever type of form, energy, we're looking in a mirror. So it's the opportunity to go, okay, damn, I'm looking at myself like that. Let me stop. Let me love myself. Let me love this person.
Yep.
So that's what I really believe that, the word, that's what the world's coming to. This is an opportunity for us all to learn how to unite together, to work together, to support each other. There's these economic challenges. Well, this is giving us an opportunity to learn how to work with each other, to learn how to, I'll say, barter and trade, to learn how to utilize each other's gifts, to utilize our own gifts. Showing up in my gift and you show up in your gift, and how can we be here for each other? How can we support each other? How can we expand? How can we grow?
Yep.
And that's what evolution is.
Yep. And we're
expanding and growing.
We're learning how to be one.
Yeah.
And a synergy between us, as opposed to working against each other. Yeah. Very cool.
You had said earlier, you were talking when we were on the break, how, here you were thinking of me, and then I ended up texting you, and it happens all the time. And for me, that's affirmation of, yeah, we're one.
Yeah.
We're all oneness. When you think about someone, or you're thinking about someone, even with this piece I'm choreographing, I'm listening to the song, and there were two people that I was specifically thinking about. One of them was and one of them sent me a text message, and the other person showed up at my door. I get the text message, and then boom, the doorbell rings. And who is at the door? And I look, and yeah, it's a full moon. Oh, it's my brother. So it's like, yeah, we're one.
Well, yeah, and then those things, it's fun, and I think sometimes people take that for granted, that those things happen, but I think that's what makes the life beautiful, is those little things that happen. And I started driving people crazy because I started calling this Disney World metaphysics. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I was like, well, if you think about it, when you're a kid and you walked into Disney World and you see that castle and you see Mickey and you see all, Cinderella or whoever's standing around you, you're not thinking about one particular thing. You're thinking about the magic that's happening around you. And you're excited. And I don't care how, even an adult kid is doing the same thing. And so, as if you look at the world, it's kind of like that experience of magic, then, the synchronicities are magical at those moments. And most of us are looking for that spark in, all the wrong places, so to speak. But I think, it's happening around us all the time. So.
And, Disneyland, talk about a place of art, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, and just goes to show how important art is in this world. And it also has me think of, does art create life, or does life create art? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's very, important. And I talk about in my first book, Conversations on Success, we're all dancers, we're all singers, we're all writers, we're all producers, and we're all choreographers. And people will say, I'm not a dancer. Well, sure you are. You put your feet on the floor. You picked up the phone right now. That's movement. I'm not a choreographer. Sure you are. You choose which move you want to do. You should choose which direction you want to go.
Yep.
The choreography, and it's the same as directing and producing. We produce our life.
Yeah, it's because they get hung up on the label of how it should be.
Exactly. The shoulds, which is fear.
Yep.
That word, fear shows up in our language. That word should is someone else's teaching. And I'll give this to the listeners. We shift that word should to could. You could do it. Do you want to?
You know what?
If you don't want to, don't.
Yeah. You know what I found very interesting too is that when I went on like a biblical study a couple of years ago, and I learned that the word fear in biblical times is not what it means now. And that the fact that fear meant in awe of, of the awesomeness. In other words, great reverence. And I was like, well, that's not what it means now. So it's totally the opposite of what we use it for now. And so I was thinking, like, how many words do we have twisted? And we're getting the misrepresentation of it, and we're getting tore up inside, and not in flow with ourselves. And I just found that very interesting.
Well, it's fascinating because there are many people that can go round and round with me about this, but I view fear as my friend.
Yeah.
In the aspect of I get to learn from fear. Fear teaches me where I hold myself back.
Yeah.
And I learned that in going to receive my certification because fear, Rhonda Britton's quote, fear is just an affirmation of our growth. And, where there's fear and when we're aware of it, okay, great, I get to move beyond this. And fear just wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep us small. And then, boom, once we move through what we think we're fearing, what we're most afraid of, fear tries to get louder. Fear tries to find other subtle ways. And it's just an opportunity to keep expanding, keep growing, to learn that, I'm not my fear.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you should say that because fear is that next level that you have to push through, that you have to understand. And so I was, it was funny because most of the people down in this area that I work with, they're like, well, I don't want to go through that. And I'm like, well, if there's something I'm afraid of, that's directly where I'm going to go through, because I want to look at it and I want to experience it and I want to grow from it. And it's an opportunity. It's not exactly what you said. It's an opportunity, and so it's very exciting to me to look at it. Of course, when you change that focus and you've reprogrammed that in yourself, you're not avoiding it anymore. You're heading towards it. And then when you catch yourself avoiding it, you're like, oh, well, this is really a good opportunity. So, because you've changed your focus on how you see things. So.
And two, it's not that avoidance is a bad thing. Fear is not a bad thing. The expectations we carry aren't a bad thing because it's all good. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to learn more about self.
It's all perfect. It's all in divine timing and divine order.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
All right, guys. We'll be right back, and we'll be coming back in for another segment. So just bear with me 1 second. I thought it was really cool because when you're talking about mirroring, not a lot of people want to see that. And when I work with people and they're mad at their spouses or their friends and they're saying, well, these people did this to me, and I say, well, hold on a second, let's take a look at what you're saying. And then they'll say, well, they're a jerk. I'm like, well, where have you been a jerk? You have to take a look at this because it takes two sides to create a situation, and most people don't want to look at that. And it's because their beast is like beaten up against the mirror instead of actually looking at it. So I didn't know, if you had anything, because I really enjoy the subject of mirroring. I didn't know what you had more to talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's like when you said, you're such a jerk, and I love how, well, let's take a look at that. And that's where I go, where do you call yourself a jerk? You really want to keep doing that? What if you let go of that? Who are you without it? And it also, one of the such a great tool that I learned at the Fearless Living Institute is seeing the innocence. Knowing that everyone has their own fear, and my fear can trigger their fear, and their fear can trigger mine, and we get an opportunity. Like if we get pissed in that moment, we could take time and go within, or we can create that connection and actually talk about it right there. Because if we take too much time, we get filtered, right?
Sure.
So it's and the more we practice, because it really is just, for me, life is out of practice. It makes things less perfect. Everything is perfect, whole and complete as it is. So if we are willing to say, you know what, I'm feeling this. I heard you say this, and I felt this. What was your intention? Or what were you meaning? And we create that level of intimacy, into me, I see the mirror.
I like
we
that.
can create that just that intimacy. It's and I hope I get it. Well, yeah, I'm gonna say it. It's where everything's tapped in, tuned on, and I call it the big O. It's the universal orgasm.
Oh yeah.
We're utilizing all of our energies, and we're creating that level of intimacy and becoming one.
Yep.
So, be willing to, if we're triggered in the moment, if we're upset, and be willing to talk about it. You talked about text message over our break, and it's funny. I love technology. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's so many benefits to it. Yes, because here we are connected, right? You and I are here because of the computer together. We got to meet. I love that. But we also are now also utilizing it as an avoidance. Text message. Okay, could you just pick up the phone and call me?
Yeah.
How come? Because I'm also noting text messages, texting, and email is used as an avoidance tactic.
Yep.
I love what you have to say, but I really don't want to be close with you.
Yep. It's
so
so
let
funny.
me keep you at a distance.
It's so funny you should say that, because now I've been starting to make a rule with people. I won't have detailed conversations on text message. You got to pick up the phone and call me. And if it's something that is hurt feelings or anything like that, I won't discuss it on Facebook, email, or text message. You have to call me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you can miss so much.
Yes. And with text messages and emails, whose voice do you hear in your head? Our own.
Our own, yeah.
Unless you really know that person well enough, or they are that tuned in to the energies that you're hearing their voice. Because I have my clients are like, I heard your voice in my head today. Oh, what did I say? Yeah, that's something I would say. Okay. But when we're reading text or emails, it's your filter reading it. So whatever has if there's an avoidance going on, well, yeah, you're not going to get through that avoidance through that, because you're moving through your own internal fear voice, that ego. So yeah, pick up the phone.
It's so funny you should say that, because a friend of mine, him and I talk on Instant Messenger all the time, but we're big mirrors for each other. I mean, huge mirrors for each other. And we love each other, but we will misread what we're saying all the time because we hear our own voice. And so it was so funny, because I called him up one day. I said, "What are you talking about?" And when I felt his energy from talking to him, I was like, "Oh, okay." And so we started laughing, and we were like, instant message for serious conversation, not a good thing.
No.
Well, it is in a sense that
no.
it is in a sense that we grew from it, we learned from it, but it was funny because we'll literally, you can just feel the two of us getting offended by each other on instant message, but when we talk on the phone, we're totally in flow. And it kind of made me laugh in a sense, because we're missing out on that opportunity to connect with each other. It's because we get so wrapped up in all of our stuff that we're working on instant messenger and working on other stuff. Like, I'll be writing the book and talking to him on instant messenger. So it's just one of those funny things we can really take a look at. And I like how you bring up that. So
the avoidance point?
Yeah, the avoidance point. Because, well, look at it. We're having relationships on text message.
Yeah.
People are what is it called? Sexting.
Sexting, yes.
That one cracked me up. Or they're.
It's like, really? I mean, my text message. I only have so many lines I can put in the text message. Imagine how many text messages people are getting. Someone had told me, kids now, 7,000 text messages a month. Yeah. It's like, okay, come on. Boundaries, guidelines, I don't know. But, if it works, but, yeah.
Yeah, we could go on this subject for a while, because there's just so many things. I mean, well, our world has changed. I mean, Facebook has become a way for us to meet I'm not saying it's because I've met a lot of great friends on Facebook. But I mean, people. I remember back in the day when you would meet people, you'd meet them by going out and doing things. You'd meet them at groups or, of course, bars. We've done that before. Churches or restaurants. We have with people are having chat parties on webs on online, and they're never actually meeting each other. So.
Well, and there's gaming. There's the whole world of gaming, and I love the creative aspect, and I love the uniting of it all, and this really is Star Trek. Really, I feel predicted everything. Again, it goes back to which is does art imitate life or life imitate art? But there's also, again, with all new opportunities does come fear.
Yeah.
And it's, fear does get subtle, and it's, if we're utilizing these beautiful tools to disconnect, to avoid, to not fully get in tune with another human being, well, let's look at that. Start setting those, put yourself on a schedule. I'm guilty of it. I've got my Facebook going, occasionally I got the TV in the background on mute, but it's there because of the visual, I guess. And I'm writing my book, and it's like, okay, really? I got to step back. How centered am I?
Yeah. Well, and you've got a lot of distractions. I do the same thing. And then, of course, then I joke and I say, I've had writer's block for 2 weeks. Well, no wonder why I have Facebook going and everything else, and I'm not connected at a higher consciousness.
That writer's block, it's like, okay, well, how come you're blocking?
Yeah. Right. What do you not want to look at, or what do you not want to write? That's actually it's an avoidance. So, well, guys, we're coming up to the end of our show. I just want to make sure you go check out David's website at evolutionthenextlevel.com. He's writing a new book, and he has a current book out. And again, if you email him off of his website and tell him about Soul Talk Radio, he'll send you an autographed copy of his last book. And
with a scheduled reading. Gotta get a reading, and then you'll get the book.
I'm sorry. With a scheduled reading. And what's so funny? I'm looking at your site, and it says schedule a celebration, and I wasn't sure what a celebration was.
Well, a celebration. Do you know now, or?
No. Well, other than celebrating life,
Well, yes, it is all about celebrating life. But a celebration, a celebration is you're having a party, you're having a get together. I can come and bring the dance to you, and get your party moving. Or as well, could we have a gallery event where I give readings and coaching in that environment of the party, and it's fabulous. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, well, very cool. So you guys check him out for a reading, and I'm assuming you can do them over the phone as well.
Yes, readings over the phone, Skype. I also do email readings. But of course, I love the connection of voice and the energies. But all the readings they're always. It doesn't make a difference if we're in person or over the phone or email. It works the same for me. And Skype.
Awesome, very.
Yeah.
So guys, just thank David for being on the show, and we're gonna take a break, and I'll be right back to close up the show. But I'll be just back in a few more minutes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Okay, and that was Anna Gavin and her song Shannon Avenue. Really great show. A good conversation with David Beck. Very enjoyable to have him on here. Especially make sure you check out his website at evolutionthenextlevel.com. Next week we have, and you can check out the schedule at soultalkradio.org or .org. The calendar function is on here. You can check out our upcoming guests. Our next week's guest is Nancy Baker, and she's going to be talking about the 55 concepts of metaphysical studies. I've talked to her a few times. She's a very nice lady, and I'm excited about having her on the show next week. So some things to think about. Again, the show is always 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time, and our podcasts are up. You can actually go to look at our back episodes or listen to them. There's a a button or a toggle button, a navigation button on the Soul Talk Radio website, and you can click on past shows, and it'll show you all the old past shows as well. So I guess that's it. You guys have a wonderful week, and hope everybody's starting to get ready for Christmas. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.